You know, um, that highly specific, kind of slightly unsettling feeling right before a major thunderstorm breaks.
Oh, yeah. Like the air gets completely still.
Exactly. The air gets totally still. The hair on your arms stands up just a fraction of an inch. And there's this, like, heavy, undeniable charge in the atmosphere.
Right, you can't see it, but you feel it.
Yeah, your body absolutely knows that something massive is about to happen. So imagine if that feeling was inside you all the time, literally from the moment you were born.
Which sounds completely exhausting, honestly.
Oh, totally. But that is the exact reality for a modern operative named Elena Reyes.
Yeah.
We're getting into a really fascinating text today called The Divine Kinetic, Neon and the Primordial Mother.
It's a great piece. Really phenomenal source material.
It really is. And in it, she isn't just presented as, a soldier with electric powers. She is described as a literal, living, breathing incarnation of mythological energy.
Yeah, it's a massive paradigm shift.
Right. And I want to say right up front to you listening, if you've ever felt restless or like you just have way too much energy for your current situation, you're going to want to hear this deep dive.
For sure, because it takes that standard, action hero narrative, someone who shoots electricity, and it completely roots it in something deeply cosmic and honestly profoundly spiritual.
Yes, spiritual is the perfect word for it. Let me just give a rapid fire setup on Elena for context.
Go for it.
So she's originally from Manila. She generates this blinding blue-white electricity from her own body, literally like neon tubing shorting out against wet asphalt.
Such a vivid image.
I know, right? And she is so powerful that this high-tech tactical organization called Valorant recruited her when she was just 17 years old.
17. I mean, that's just a kid.
Literally a kid. And they measure her output in volts and joules, basically treating her like a walking power grid.
Which entirely misses the point of what she actually is, as the text argues.
Exactly. And I see you making notes over there, and I love that you've changed your backdrop from that modern cityscape to a swirling, storm-filled night sky.
Yeah, I figured it was the perfect vibe for the themes of electricity and mythology we're about to get into.
It
Yeah.
absolutely is.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean? How does a kid from Manila end up carrying the weight of ancient mythology in her sneakers?
Well, to figure that out, we really have to start at the physical reality of her youth.
Which honestly sound like an absolute nightmare of a burden before she understood it.
Oh, yeah. The text highlights this beautifully with the literal circumstances of her birth. Because, she was born running.
Wait, literally born running?
Literally. The doctors observed her infant legs moving before she had even cleared the birth canal.
That is wild.
Right. Her body already knew what it was designed to do, even if her environment, couldn't accommodate it yet.
Which prompted these two incredibly telling reactions from her parents. I love this detail in the source. Her mother is laughing through tears, saying she's in a hurry to get somewhere.
And her father says, she's already late.
Yes. And the text points out how they were both entirely right. She isn't just fast in a physical point A to point B sense. Her entire baseline of existence is it's accelerated.
Yeah, the text notes she is fast in her laughter, fast in her anger, and importantly, fast in her forgiveness.
Like her emotional processing speed matches her physical output.
Exactly. But living at that frequency creates an immense amount of friction when you're forced to interact with a world that operates at a normal pace.
And that leads to what the text calls kinetic trouble during her teenage years. And we should clarify, not malicious trouble.
Right, she wasn't out there robbing banks or anything.
No, no. It's the kind of trouble that happens when you're carrying around an absurd amount of kinetic energy and the world around you is just like too slow and too fragile.
Yeah, like the sneakers.
Oh my gosh, the sneakers. She was breaking 3 pairs of sneakers a week. And we aren't just talking about wearing down the soles from running.
No, it's so much more intense than that.
Yeah, we're talking about the literal thermal heat and G-forces her body was generating, actually melting the rubber to the Manila asphalt.
It is a profound lack of containment. The mundane objects of her life simply cannot handle her output.
She once ran straight through a chain link fence.
Which is terrifying.
Right. And not to be destructive, but because in the heat of the moment, her molecular vibration was so high, she literally forgot that solid things existed.
She forgot she wasn't made entirely of electrical current.
Exactly. I was reading this and thinking about the physical mechanics of it. It's like trying to put a fighter jet engine into a standard golf cart chassis.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. The human container just isn't built to handle that much raw, unadulterated output without tearing itself apart. Like, how does a teenager even survive that?
Well, what's fascinating here is the profound psychological toll that lack of containment takes on a young person.
Oh, for sure.
The physical survival is one thing, but the mental burden is staggering. The text gives us this really heartbreaking image of her crying in a bathroom, just desperately wanting to be normal.
Yeah, she wants to stop leaving static charge on everything she touches.
Exactly. She wants to stop lighting up like a firework every time she gets overwhelmed. She's carrying all of this power, but she has absolutely no context for it.
Right, like Valorant might see her as a tactical asset later, but right now, to her, it just feels like this massive isolating flaw.
Until her Lola, her grandmother, offers this deeply pivotal piece of wisdom.
Oh, I loved this part.
Yeah, she holds Elena's face and tells her, Hija, you are too much for one place, but that doesn't mean you're too much.
It's beautiful. But as a teenager, Elena doesn't really know what to do with that information.
Right, it's comforting, sure, but it doesn't actually explain the mechanics of her existence.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Like, why is she like this?
Right.
She doesn't get that actual answer until she turns 22, which is when the dreams begin.
The water dreams.
Yes.
This is where the narrative really shifts from the gritty, tactical reality of her youth into the cosmic origins of her power.
And these dreams are so atmospheric. She finds herself standing in water. But the text is very specific. It's not an ocean, and it's not a river.
No, it's something significantly older.
Yeah, it's described as warm, dark water with a literal pulse. Like she's standing inside something that is actually alive.
Because there is a presence there, a voice. Though, importantly, it doesn't communicate using traditional words.
Right.
The source text describes it as the sensation of words. It feels like the way your name sounds when spoken by someone who loves you completely.
Wow.
Yeah, you hear all the history, all the worry, and all the joy behind the syllables.
And the message this presence gives her is just staggering. It says, "You came from me the way lightning comes from cloud. You didn't leave me. You became the part of me that moves."
Which completely recontextualizes her entire life.
It does. And we also get this crucial piece of corroborating evidence from her waking life. She meets an ageless woman in Lisbon who recognizes Elena immediately.
Right, the woman who says she's one of the fast ones?
Exactly. And she mentions that the mother always runs when she comes back this way. And when Elena asks who she means, the woman explains that the first mother doesn't have a permanent body. She borrows. She moves through.
It's a very specific phrasing.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because my immediate reaction reading that interaction in Lisbon was, wait, if the first mother borrows bodies, that sounds suspiciously like a parasite or like demonic possession.
I can see why you'd think that, yeah.
Right. Like, how does the text reconcile a teenager losing her autonomy to a cosmic god? Is this text actually suggesting that Elena is possessed?
No, it is fundamentally different. This isn't a possession, it is a manifestation.
Okay, a manifestation.
Yeah, and to understand the difference, the text dives deeply into a kind of theology of electricity. We really have to look past our modern understanding of solid matter.
Okay, I'm with you.
The text posits that before the world became solid, before matter actually decided to take form, there was only motion.
Pure, undifferentiated motion.
Exactly. It wasn't moving toward anything or away from anything. It was just the fact of movement itself.
The text calls it the void that dances.
Which is such a poetic way to frame it. Ancient cultures sensed this reality without having the scientific vocabulary for it. They called it the formless deep or the waters before the word.
Right, right.
So the core realization here is that the primordial mother is not a character in a story. She isn't an entity sitting on a cloud pulling strings.
So she's not like Zeus throwing lightning bolts.
No, not at all. She is the capacity for the story to exist in the first place. She is the generative force, the absolute baseline of aliveness underneath all living things. So she doesn't incarnate to hijack a body or visit the world like a tourist.
Because the world is already her body.
Precisely. The world is her body. And occasionally, a specific part of that body becomes intensely, overwhelmingly awake.
Oh.
Yeah, Elena isn't losing her autonomy to a foreign parasite. She is waking up to her own fundamental nature. The text tells us plainly, Elena Reyes is awake.
That is heavy. So we've taken this character who, on the surface, is a fast, tactical operative with electric powers, and we've revealed that she's actually connected to the pure, primordial motion of the universe.
It's a huge leap, but the text makes it work so well.
It does. But how does that translate to the battlefield? Because Valorant, they measure her output in tactical terms. They give her gear, they look at her abilities and see a like a tripwire.
Right, purely functional.
Exactly. I am fascinated by how the text translates that abstract cosmic philosophy into her literal boots-on-the-ground combat abilities.
Well, the briefings in her world describe her abilities in purely militaristic terms, like you said, lightning barriers, velocity slipstreams, overcharge.
Right.
But Elena, now armed with this deeper understanding, knows what they actually represent. They are gifts. They're mythological acts played out on a modern battlefield.
Okay, let's start with those lightning barriers. Tactically, it's a piece of utility. You throw it down to stop an enemy from crossing a hallway.
A simple blockade.
Right. But the text reframes this completely. It tells us that in the oldest goddess traditions, the Divine Mother is deeply associated with thresholds.
Yes, the door, the gate, the edge between inside and outside.
Exactly. And because she is pure motion, when she is forced to interact with stagnant, solid matter like a hallway in a combat zone, that friction results in a localized electrical storm.
So the tactical barrier isn't just a gadget.
No, it's the physical byproduct of the universe's baseline energy scraping against our solid world.
Which is incredible.
It is. It's the first creative act of the universe. To say here and not here is how the undifferentiated void first turned into something particular and recognizable. So she isn't just blocking a door, she is participating in the genesis of form.
It's a brilliant way to elevate a standard sci-fi trope.
Totally. And it makes you rethink your own boundaries, doesn't it? Like, to you listening, when you set a boundary at work or in a relationship, you aren't just putting up a wall.
Right, you're defining yourself.
Exactly. You're doing what Elena did with her lightning. You're defining where you begin and the rest of the world ends. But, okay, the barrier is how she establishes her space. Her velocity is how she breaks out of it.
Yes, the speed.
The Valorant briefings just call her signature speed, going fast. But the text connects her running to the very first thing the living world ever did. It describes the Big Bang not as a violent explosion, but as a departure.
A first movement outward.
Yes.
The imagery there is stunning. The text says she is that original departure happening again right now in human legs and electric lungs. The universe deciding to become more than it currently was.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because thinking of the Big Bang as a departure rather than an explosion completely changes the emotional resonance of it.
It makes it personal.
Completely. It's like leaving your hometown for the very first time. It isn't a destruction of where you came from. It's an outward expansion of your identity. You are deciding to become more.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the text uses a brilliant metaphor to explain this relationship.
Oh, the ocean one.
Yes. It says that everything comes from this primordial motion, not the way a factory produces a product, but the way a wave comes from the ocean.
I love that.
The ocean doesn't make the wave is the wave. And the wave doesn't leave the wave is just the ocean moving. Elena is the universe deciding to move.
But there has to be a breaking point, right? Like, you can't just infinitely expand a physical body. What happens when that departure hits the absolute limits of her human container?
That brings us to her overcharge ability.
Yes. This is when she enters a state where she is burning so bright with electricity that her own body becomes a literal hazard.
She becomes too much to look at.
Exactly. The G-forces, the sensory overload, her physical body essentially becomes plasma.
And the ancient stories called this spate theophany.
Theophany.
Yeah, the God showing through. It is the precise moment when the human container, that golf cart chassis you mentioned earlier, becomes completely insufficient for what it is trying to carry.
It just can't hold it.
No, the excess power has to spill over into visible form.
And the text notes that she always comes back from this overcharged state a little disoriented, but she always comes back more herself.
Right.
Which brings us to the real emotional climax of this entire source text. Elena's acceptance of who and what she is.
It's such a powerful moment.
It really is. She's broken down the mechanics, she understands the gifts, but she still has to reckon with the sheer weight of it all.
Yeah.
And she finally confronts this in the water dream.
Yeah, for the first time, she speaks back to the voice in the dream.
Right.
She asks the most human question possible. She asks, why me?
And as she asks it, we get these rapid-fire flashbacks to her life. We see the scorch marks she left on the hot manila asphalt as a barefoot kid.
We see her crying in the bathroom again, desperate to just be normal.
Yeah. And then we see her memory of her first truly full speed run. No holding back. The text says she felt the air split around her like cloth. And for one terrible, perfect second, she felt like she was momentum itself. She had no edges. She was only direction.
It's the culmination of her entire physical experience. And when she asks the mother, why me? The mother's response is profound.
It really is.
She says, because you were already this. I didn't choose you. I recognized you.
There is a massive difference between being chosen and being recognized.
Absolutely.
Why is that distinction so fundamentally crucial for Elena's character? Like, if she was chosen, wouldn't that make her special in the same way?
Well, this raises an important question about agency versus inherent nature. In almost every superhero or mythological narrative, being chosen implies a burden being placed upon someone from the outside.
Right, like you're just a normal person,
Uh-huh.
and suddenly you're handed a heavy mantle.
Exactly. It implies an external expectation, a job you have to do.
Like getting drafted into a war you didn't ask for. It carries a sort of a messiah complex with it.
But being recognized means that this power, this overwhelming kinetic energy, isn't a foreign object she has to learn to carry. It is her fundamental baseline.
Wow.
The mother isn't giving her a task. She is finally giving Elena permission to be exactly what she already is. It reframes her entire childhood.
She wasn't breaking sneakers because she was flawed or clumsy.
Exactly. She wasn't too much for one place because something was wrong with her. She was too much for one place because she came from everywhere.
That reframing changes everything about how she carries this power now. The text says she doesn't consciously walk around thinking, I'm a divine incarnation.
Right. She's still a modern operative.
But she knows how it feels.
Mhm.
She knows that running now feels like a prayer. It feels like pressing against a door your entire life, and suddenly it finally stops resisting and swings open.
The physical and emotional release must be staggering for her. The text mentions that she often cries after her missions now.
But it's not from fear, and it's not from grief.
No, it is from a sense of fullness. For a brief moment, she was allowed to be more than her human container could hold, and the overflow simply comes out as tears.
She even develops this beautiful little pre-sprint ritual. Before she takes off, she touches the earth, just centering herself.
Yeah, grounding herself.
Literally. And the text says that when she does this, something answers her.
Mhm.
Just a low hum, like distant thunder or like the world taking a breath. She is literally completing the circuit with the earth before she becomes the lightning.
It is a profound state of acceptance. She has integrated the overwhelming, chaotic energy of her youth with the ancient cosmic purpose of her existence.
The measurements Valorant takes in the lab just don't matter anymore because she finally understands the source.
Exactly.
Well, we've gone on quite a journey today. We started with a restless kid in Manila, melting her sneakers to the asphalt and running through fences because she couldn't slow down.
And we've ended up with a literal breathing manifestation of the universe's very first movement.
The capacity for the story of life to exist at all. It's so cool. And the source text leaves us with one final gorgeous image that I really want to share.
Please do.
Elena is back in the water dream. It's warm, it's dark, it's pulsing. But this time, she doesn't ask why me. She just stands there. She breathes in the air that smells like rain before the rain, like that thunderstorm anticipation we talked about at the very beginning.
Full circle.
Yeah. And she simply says to the water, I know you. It's not a question. And the water moves and replies, yes, you always have. She wakes up, she laces her sneakers, and she runs.
It is the perfect synthesis of the divine and the wonderfully, stubbornly mundane, the primordial mother of the universe lacing up a pair of sneakers.
For you listening, I want to bring this right back to your world. Most of us are not going to shoot blinding blue-white lightning out of our hands today.
Definitely not.
And we probably aren't going to break the sound barrier on our afternoon jog either.
Yeah.
But we all have those moments where we feel like we are overflowing our own containers.
Oh, absolutely. Moments where the energy we have inside us just doesn't match the reality we are sitting in, and we feel like we might just short circuit if we don't move.
Well, the text suggests that pure primordial motion is the actual baseline of the universe, and solid matter is secondary. It's just a temporary form that motion takes.
Right.
If that's true, the next time you feel a restless, undeniable urge to move, to change careers, to upend your routine, or to just run until your lungs burn, consider this. Are you simply feeling anxious, or is that the universe trying to remember itself through you?
Man, what a thought to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the divine kinetic. We'll catch you next time.